Hello and welcome to Your New Jersey. I'm Lisa Marie Falbo. Community investment can take on many forms, and today we're looking at how one New Jersey institution is helping create lasting impact across the state. Leonardo, Ramos, and Samantha Plotino are helping lead efforts through Provident Bank and the Provident Bank Foundation that support nonprofits, strengthen neighborhoods, and expand opportunity for families across New Jersey. Leonardo, Samantha, thank you so much for joining me here.
Thanks for having us.
So, Leonardo, I'm going to start with you. What does community investment look like at Provident Bank?
For Provident Bank actually does community reinvestment through the framework of the Community Reinvestment Act. The Community Reinvestment Act actually focuses in four major areas, typically affordable housing. It focuses on small businesses and job creation. It focuses on financial education and community development. And it focuses on the revitalization of neighborhoods that are tied to low and moderate income individuals, families, and areas in New Jersey.
So you have those four pillars. How do you enact them in the community?
We look at all organizations that fit into that scope, and then the bank provides support for the amazing work that they do. We're always looking to help all organizations that are working to make our communities better, brighter. We just like supporting that kind of work. The bank supports these organizations in two different ways. The first way is obviously the financial support that we provide for the organizations. And then we provide volunteers also that support the work that these organizations do.
I feel like you have so many amazing programs implemented with your employees. I love We Wear Jeans for a Cause. I just think that's so unique. Tell us about it.
Yeah, it's an amazing program, and the way it works is we allow for our employees to make small voluntary contributions on a regular basis, and we collect that money through payroll deductions. And in exchange for doing that, they get to wear jeans on Fridays. That money accumulates, and once that money accumulates at a certain level, then we give that money away to worthy causes and worthy organizations. In the last round, we were able to actually contribute $80,000 to 5 organizations that were very deserving. Among those, the Puerto Rican Association for Human Development, PRAHD, which is one of the recipients of this funding.
That is amazing. Every little bit counts, right?
Every little bit. This program is so unique. I have worked for other organizations. I have not seen any organization do this. Not only is unique in how it works, but it's also unique in how we give the money away to these organizations and the mindfulness of how this fits within the overall bank's strategy, if you will.
So how does the Provident Bank Foundation tie into all of this, Samantha?
So in 2003, when the bank went public on the New York Stock Exchange, they took some of the profits from that sale and set up an endowment, which they called the Provident Bank Foundation. And our purpose in becoming this endowed foundation was to go back into the communities where Provident Bank has a presence and continue to support nonprofit organizations that are directly impacting the people in the communities. We have a focus that does not have to align as tightly to community reinvestment, which gives us a lot more flexibility to work with organizations in many different areas, addressing many different types of community needs above and beyond what the bank is already doing. So we find that our giving is very complementary to what the bank is able to contribute, and together we make almost twice that impact every year, which is pretty incredible.
Wow. Well, the bank has the best ambassador ever.
Thank you.
So we were connected through Let's Talk Women's Health and Wellness.
Yes.
You were one of this year's booming voices because you have such a story, which I want you to touch upon because I think it ties into your work here.
Oh, absolutely. So back in 2024, I was diagnosed with breast cancer while I was 20 weeks pregnant with my second child. I was very fortunate, despite how challenging that year of treatment and everything that followed, everything from, dealing with my oncology appointments to then prenatal appointments and making sure that both of us were healthy during that time, I realized very quickly that I have an incredible support network. I have a community of family and friends who are supportive of my husband and my children. And I realized pretty quickly how very privileged I am to be in that position, and that is not a universal experience for many people in New Jersey and nationwide. And it really helped to reinform and reinvigorate the way we started to look at how we were going to invest our money, especially in the healthcare space and other areas of human services that we provide funding for at the Provident Bank Foundation, which includes housing access and affordability, food security, healthcare access to people who are uninsured or underinsured, as well as youth mental health services, in addition to education and workforce development, because we know that addressing those really basic needs in the human services space really allows people to thrive and overcome any challenges that they may see fit. So, thankfully, kind of being on the other side of my own health crisis has allowed me and really kind of reinvigorated my passion for investing in those basic needs that people in our communities have.
There are so many worthy causes and organizations in the state. How do you even begin to choose who should get funds?
It's very difficult,
Yeah.
yes, because there are so many needs. I wish that we had more resources. Typically, we don't have enough resources to be able to do the things that we want. However, we try to choose those organizations that are doing the best work out there. And that's how we look at things through that lens and through that framework. Organizations that have the most impact, organizations that are helping individuals in real need. And so it's a very difficult job. We try to do the best job that we can. We don't have unlimited resources, unfortunately. Even through that, we use other tools at our disposal to try to do more. Last year alone, the bank contributed roughly about $2 million of support to many organizations within the state. Only 40% of that contribution was credited to what is Community Reinvestment Act. The rest are contributions that we give to organizations that don't fit that scope, but they are still worthy organizations that we want to support.
Besides giving funds, how else does the foundation support these missions? I mean, is it just handing a check and see you later? But I have a feeling that's not going to be your answer.
No, it's definitely not. I think in addition to identifying organizations that have really strong and demonstrated impact, we also take the time to build relationships with these organizations that we do choose to fund. We have 1,900 employees across the bank's footprint, and those are talents and time through these incredible employees and colleagues that we have that we can also give back to those organizations through volunteer efforts. There's financial literacy opportunities where we can help organizations serve their clients in that way or their employees themselves. We also attend and volunteer everything from building homes to stocking the shelves for food pantries, because for us, the relationships that we have with our communities really help us to understand better what those organizations' needs are and how we can better serve them. Because we know a transactional relationship of just handing over a check and expecting some sort of feedback on the impact that they had is really not doing much for most of the people involved. There's so much more. We're also able, when we have those relationships with organizations and the leadership of those organizations, and we have a really good understanding, maybe through board service, for example, how else we can open up our networks to those organizations and connect them with additional resources that we have through the larger Provident Bank family and entity of services, as well as, connecting nonprofits to other nonprofits to offer complementary services, share skills, share resources, share knowledge, all of that kind of wrapped into one. So those relationships are really important across both entities.
Yeah, just to give you an example of that as well, the bank last year accumulated about 3,500 hours of volunteer hours.
Wow.
It's not just building something or helping, but also the know-how, right? So many of our employees that, for example, are familiar with the accounting or the operations or the compliance piece, they support these organizations by serving in these boards and providing that type of support.
Really?
Yes.
So in your employees, fellow colleagues' spare time, they're donating accounting services, for example?
Yes. So for example, tax time, we have some employees that, that's what they do. They like to do taxes themselves, and so they take some courses, and then they basically do that with low and moderate income individuals and they do it for free, obviously, and they don't have any compensation other than knowing that this is happening and that someone is actually getting a refund, larger refund.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's amazing. So through Provident, one of the benefits we have as employees is something called volunteer paid time off, where any volunteer service that you do with a nonprofit during your regular business hours is actually essentially compensated for 15 hours. It's 2 full days of volunteer service. But so many of our employees and our colleagues are going above and beyond that and spending their personal time and sharing their talents in that way with these organizations and really committing and finding something they're passionate about and lending that time, providing that service through, VITA programs, for example, with tax returns and other ways. It is truly incredible to see once you have tapped into something that someone's really passionate about, it just blooms from there. And with all the nonprofit organizations that we at the foundation are supporting currently, have supported in the past, who have sought funding support from us through our application process, we also end up being a bit of a resource for our colleagues who are saying, I really want to do more, I really want to give back, but I don't know how. I don't know what organizations are out there. Well, we can say, we know people. Let us connect you. Let us be that connector. Let us help you find a way where you feel like you can really give back in a way that makes you feel good. Because people really have a lot to give and a lot to share, and we want to help foster that as well.
I do want to touch a little bit on the financial education piece. That is important because when I meet with organizations, in particular around this piece, they always ask, we want you to teach us the tricks, or what are the tricks to be better financially, right? And the reality is that there's no tricks. The reality is that the information is out there. It's just difficult to find the information. And so what we try to do is we try to really educate anyone that wants to be educated to learn. So what are the things that maybe you need to do to get ahead financially? That has a very large impact in the community. And so it puts them in a better position in the future.
I love everything you're about. And I love how the bank side and the foundation side seamlessly work hand in hand. And just what a beautiful company it sounds like to work. And you said 1,900 employees.
Yes.
1,900 employees. And it's not because I work for Provident Bank. I work for other banks. This is a phenomenal organization. It's embedded in the core principles of the organization. From our CEO, Tony Labosera, everybody lives the core principles of the organization. And it just makes it a joy to go to work every single day.
Well, we're going to now meet one of the recipients. Do you want to talk about the relationship and how that came to be?
Yeah, absolutely. Through the We Wear Jeans for a Cause program, we selected the organization called PRAHD, based in Perth Amboy, as one of our recipients because they are working on an incredible project to help build supportive senior housing for seniors living in Perth Amboy. And it is an amazing opportunity to expand upon a relationship that the foundation has had with PRAHD for many years, but also with the bank as well, to look at this opportunity to really address a major need in our community, which is housing availability and housing affordability, but also help to look at other social issues like isolation for seniors to be able to offer a supportive outlet for them as well in this housing opportunity. So it's amazing, and we're so excited for you to meet Kim Ruiz, who is their executive director.
Well, I'm excited. So before we wrap here, where can people find out more about the wonderful work that you're doing?
For Provident Bank, there's actually a community page. When you go to providentbank.com, you can see the investment that Provident Bank is doing in the community, learn a little more about the financial education programs that we have, and also if there was a need that we might be able to have these conversations, then that's where all starts. Some individuals also go to the branch, and then that's where the conversations begin, and eventually they come to my team, and then we analyze those opportunities as well.
Amazing. How about on the foundation side?
Yeah, our website is theprovidentbankfoundation.org, and we're also on LinkedIn. We are currently, at the time of this taping, accepting applications for our cycle, which happens once a year. If organizations do miss out on that opportunity, we love to stay in touch with organizations. Folks can reach out to us by email. All of our contact information is on our website, and we're happy to share and start building relationships with folks in anticipation for our next opportunity to seek funding support.
So applications are open. When do you announce recipients?
Typically in August. So it's an April application cycle. There's a lot of review, a lot of process that goes through, and then our board of directors at the Provident Bank Foundation reviews at the end of July, and we start getting the word out every August. And it's a really exciting time, and we look forward to seeing what opportunities we are going to have to invest in our communities this year.
Well, I cannot wait to find out who will be this year's recipients, and just thank you so much for coming here today and spreading the good work of the Provident Bank and Provident Bank Foundation.
Thank you for having us.
Support for community organizations can truly change lives, and our next guest is seeing that impact firsthand. Joining us now is Kim V. Ruiz, Executive Director and CEO of the Puerto Rican Association for Human Development, also known as PRAHD. The organization is a recent recipient of community reinvestment funding from Provident Bank, support that will help expand housing opportunities for seniors in the Garden State. Kim, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I love that we were able to give you a bit of nostalgia. You were telling me off camera that you did legal work for AZI, which we are headquartered in.
Yeah, I was a young attorney at working at a law firm, and I was an employment attorney, and I did some employment work, some internal investigations, that kind of stuff, and so it brought back memories when I saw the address to the interview today.
Yeah, I love that. So when did you make the switch to nonprofit work?
I was helping nonprofits even when I was practicing law. PRAHD was my client for many years before I went in-house, as we say in the legal world. So in 2018, I took over as the executive director and CEO. But before that, I was representing PRAHD since about 2011.
Wow. So full circle moments.
Full
all
circle
around.
moment, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So tell us about the mission of PRAHD.
So our mission is, really simple. We are serving all people, and the goal is always to empower the individual to reach their highest potential, right, and become self-sustainable, right? When individuals come to PRAHD, they're either coming for help, and they're not yet in crisis, or they're in full crisis. The goal is never to just put a Band-Aid on the wound. I always say when you come in, we triage, that's an initial emergency room triage, but the goal is to cure the problem. Any team in our agency, we have about 100 employees, we do a full intake to determine what the immediate need is, then what is the root cause of that need, so that we can then provide a holistic approach to a case management plan for the individual and or the family.
So how do you go about supporting them and raising funds to do so?
Yes, so raising funds is a huge part of the nonprofit world. We provide 14 programs and services to the community under 4 what I call major pillars or departments: community service, workforce development, youth development, and education. Within those service areas, we have different programs. In order to support those programs, we have to raise funds, and that requires grant writing, which I do, and fundraising. The largest fundraiser we have is our Roberto Clemente Gala, which is happening in September. Get all that information from our website. But the grant writing brings in consistent funding, let's say, right? Because the gala is a one-shot deal once a year, and it's a variable, as are grants, but you can generally have an idea of where you're going to land in that grant pool based upon kind of historical funding. And then we do have some fee-for-service. We have a healthcare program that does provide services on a fee-for-service contract, and that provides about 20%, 25% of our annual revenue.
You got a bonus, $20,000.
We did, yes.
Over the last year.
Yes.
We, in the previous segment, met the Provident Bank and the Provident Bank Foundation, and you were one of their recipients last year.
That was such a blessing, to be honest. And so we were selected for the award specifically to support a new endeavor that we have. So we've always been in the affordable housing sector in the sense that we are landlords. We have affordable housing units that we rent out. But now we are expanding our footprint in affordable housing, and we are actually going to be developers. We are developing and constructing a new building. It is going to be right next door to our headquarters that will provide supportive housing for seniors. That is a huge need in Perth Amboy. It's a big need. And so this grant will help us with the pre-construction costs. No one ever thinks about those costs. They always think about, oh, the building's going to cost $4 million to build. But no one thinks about, but we need an architect to design the prints first. And we need EPA testing, and we need zoning permits. And so no one thinks about those costs, and they start to add up. So this grant was very helpful for us.
So how will it directly support seniors?
So we will have 8 affordable units for seniors. And the reason why we have, it's only going to be 8 units is because we have height restrictions where we're, because of the zoning that we're in Perth Amboy. But then on the first floor, we will have community room for our seniors, and we will have some case management. So our PRAHD has a senior services center. Last year, we served 2,050 seniors in Middlesex County. When I started at PRAHD in 2018, we were serving about 700 seniors, and we had about 70,000 in funding. Today, we serve over 2,000 seniors. In fact, as of March 31st of 2026, we had already served 1,004 seniors. So we are on pace to surpass our numbers for 2025. And now we have, that department has over $300,000 in funding. And it just felt natural to fulfill the next need for seniors, which is housing. Believe it or not, we have a lot of seniors that are couch surfing, which sounds crazy when you say it out loud, right? But we do. We have clients that tell us, oh, I'm sleeping at on my cousin's sofa or on my neighbor's sofa, and there's not enough housing.
There's a lot of housing being built, and I know there's a lot of fights with housing going into certain towns, and people are trying to block them. And I think because people are seeing all the new construction, but I guess you're saying it's not enough.
It's not enough, and it's not affordable. A lot of the new construction we see are luxury units. Oftentimes, the city and or the municipality enters into an agreement with the developer so that a percentage of those units are affordable. However, they are usually by lottery, and oftentimes a very small amount, so it's difficult to get into that lottery.
We're talking a lot about seniors. What other types of the population do you serve?
We serve everyone. Our youngest client is 2.5 years old. And our oldest is 96. They come from all walks of life, all countries, all ethnicities. Our tagline is serving all people. We really do stick to that. Sometimes we don't have the resources to be able to help. We do refer out sometimes to our local partners, but we do serve all people. And I stress that because oftentimes society seems to think that hardship only happens to people that, don't want to work or were incarcerated. And that's not true. Hardship happens to everyone. All you need is one bad medical diagnosis, one layoff, a death in the family, right? And everything changes. Everything changes. So we really do serve every single person that comes to the door. It does not matter where you come from, what language you speak, what you look like, how old you are. If you have a need, we're going to try to fill that need.
What is the Puerto Rican connection to the organization?
Great question. So we were founded in 1974. In Perth Amboy, New Jersey. And at that time, there was a very large population, Puerto Rican population in Perth Amboy. We had big migration from Puerto Rico to New Jersey, particularly to Perth Amboy, and particularly from a small town in Puerto Rico called San Sebastian. So you will meet a lot of older generation Puerto Ricans in Perth Amboy that are from San Sebastian. So when the organization was created, it was created by Puerto Rican, kind of leaders in the community they saw a need. And they decided they were going to start this organization. And when it was started, back then, it was considered an anti-delinquency agency, which today means after-school programs, is really what it means. Keep the kids off the streets, give them after-school programming. But the funding came from a criminal justice grant. I remember our founder, Judge Matthias Rodriguez, telling me the story about how they were in that courthouse, he and some colleagues writing the application to get the funding that originally started this organization. And then as the needs in the community changed, the agency started to add more programming. Today, the demographics in Perth Amboy look very different. In fact, probably have more Dominican employees and Mexican employees than we have Puerto Rican, and even the community itself looks very different. Today, Perth Amboy has a large immigrant population from the Dominican Republic. From other countries as well, but the largest is from the Dominican Republic, which led us to create a citizenship education program. We didn't need that in the 60s, 70s, and 80s because the population was predominantly Puerto Rican and we're born with citizenship. But today, the population looks very different, not just in Perth Amboy. in Middlesex County and in New Jersey, when you look at the data, we outpace the national data for immigrant population. So we created a few years ago the Citizenship Education Program. If you're a legal permanent resident in New Jersey and you have the required, the 5 years of legal permanent residency in the country, you can take our course and prepare for the test and the interview. And we've had a lot of success with that. We've had 34 individuals become U.S. citizens already through our program. But again, just keeping mindful and kind of your finger on the pulse of what's happening in your community. And that was a need. And so we created that program.
Beautiful. You're helping in so many different ways.
Thank you.
And you're awesome. I'm
Thank
so
you.
happy
Oh my
the
goodness.
Provident Bank, and you were nervous. You're like a boss sitting here.
Thank you so much.
I'm so happy the Provident Bank brought us together and for them to give you such a gift.
I am so grateful to the Provident Bank and the foundation. The foundation has supported us in the past as well. They've supported our seniors program. They've supported our preschool. So I'm very grateful to the Provident Bank Foundation and Provident Bank.
Kim, I'm so happy the Provident Bank and Provident Bank Foundation brought us together. Where can people watching find out more about you and to support?
So you can absolutely go to our website, www.PRAHD.org, click that donate tab, and you can actually identify what program you'd like to support. And if you want to support our senior housing development project, please feel free to designate the dollars to that. You can also follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and or LinkedIn, and all of our social media links are on our website as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you for joining me on another episode of Your New Jersey. I'm Lisa Marie Falbo. We'll see you back here next week.